Eternal Strands is the first game from Yellow Brick. This is an ambitious project that gives a new approach to navigation mechanics and how elements and magic interact with the world. There are clear inspirations from games like Monster Hunter and Shadow of the Colossus. This inspiration is most obvious when you are required to climb on giant creatures to be able to attack them and destroy them, as well as using parts and materials dropped from the defeated enemies to be able to craft weapons and armors to help you progress. There is no leveling in this game. Your health and defense do not go up by acquiring XP. The only way you can actually progress in these areas is by crafting armor and weapons. You are also very dependent on stamina. The weight of your armor and weapons contributes to how much stamina you have at your disposal. As I mentioned before, there is an innovative approach to world navigation in this game, and that is climbing. You can climb almost anything, social areas excluded, which is a benefit, but if you're not careful, it can also be a hindrance. It is a benefit as you can get to any point directly instead of having to go around until you find a way up a cliff. This opens exploration a lot and makes it faster to go from one point of the map to another. There are three types of spells: fire, ice, and kinetic. Each has three variations on which spells you can cast. Both fire and ice interact with the environment, either freezing or cooling down an area or setting it on fire. Getting each variant requires you to defeat different giant enemies. Now that I have given a general description of the game, here are my thoughts. I am a big fan of the traversal in this game. The ability to climb on almost any surface lets you get places fast and does not make it a chore if you happen to be on an elevated section, for example, and what you're looking for is so far below that it could kill you if you jump down. All you will have to do is simply climb down, or go up depending on what you need. Having to climb on enemies to defeat them is a very interesting mechanic, and it adds something over the general hit, dodge, block that you would normally see in this type of games. This is a minor complaint for me, but sometimes you may be trying to avoid an enemy and in doing so jump towards a wall and start to climb it. This leaves you exposed and throws off your movement, which can get you hit. Also, when you run around and turn, it feels like the character is sliding, as if the ground was slippery all the time. Again, this is a minor thing that does not affect the enjoyment of the game that much for me. There are a variety of spells, 3 of each kind. You get this by defeating the giant enemies that appear randomly on each map. I did not get all the variants of the spells for reasons I will explain later, but I like the variety. I only used 2 spells throughout the whole of the gameplay, unless I was forced to use the others or I wanted to get some variety from time to time. Mostly, I used the original power that they give you, a kinetic ability that allows you to pick up things and throw them around, and this includes enemies. The other spell I sometimes used was a summon that gives you a fire body that distracts enemies and after some damage is taken, explodes. This kinetic power was by far the best and most useful. You could send enemies, especially the annoying ones, off cliffs. If you hit someone with an object you picked up with this power, it would do more damage than using a weapon or the other powers, and it will not leave hazards on the ground like the other powers would. The interaction with elements in this world is not static. If something will catch on fire, the fire can spread around until it covers a very large area. Same with the ice. There can be crystals or enemies around the world that make the ice expand, and if you are caught in the freeze, you can take damage. This, however, can be very bad, as using a power can start the spread of fire, limiting your combat area and cause you to take damage from something that you used to try to do damage to enemies. Why bother setting things on fire unless you have to if it's going to come back and affect you later on, or make you waste time putting the fire out with the ice? You can trap things in ice or freeze them, but if you are close to it for long enough, it starts damaging you. So why inconvenience yourself with that? when you can just pick things up and throw them or do more damage by throwing a rock at an enemy. The game has some very cool looking weapons that interact with the elements you control. They will take some of your magic to create a burst of fire, send a freeze wave, or send you catapulting into the air. I, however, very rarely use a weapon, mainly because, like I said before, it was far more efficient to just use the kinetic power and either throw enemies around or throw objects at them. And the bow was the thing I used the least. You are also not able to change weapons or armor to adapt to different enemies or circumstances. You have to go back to speak to an NPC if you want to change weapons or armor. I found that very inconvenient. From all this, by far, the thing that I like the least and have nothing positive to say about is the stamina gauge. It annoyed me to no end, especially when fighting giant bosses. You spend stamina to run, climb, attack, and hold on to creatures. So if you were to climb to break something on their shoulder, you will have about half stamina left when you get there, most of which will be spent to hold on to the creature once it's trying to shake you off, and then you needed more to hit the spot that you needed to break. There is no way to recover stamina when you are holding onto a surface, so you get a few hits on the creature, then fall, and then climb again. It sent the boss battles from fun and interesting to an absolute annoyance. After a point, I stopped fighting them unless I absolutely had to for the story. My breaking point came when I had to spend a long time fighting a boss with a hammer that kept glitching me off the map and killing me, resetting all my progress. There are ways to mitigate the stamina gauge. Making lighter equipment gives you more stamina, but the difference is not big enough to make up for how annoying the system is. While the story is good, after a time, the traversal in the game becomes monotonous and tedious, having to fight the same mobs over and over. There are some variation in enemies, but the fights end up being the same over and over and over again. The challenge here is the big bosses, but like I said, they are incredibly annoying to fight. The game started with a bang and became a drag very quickly. I will give this game between a C or a B-. It is a good story and the voice acting is well worth the experience, but the gameplay brought it down for me. Let me know what you thought of the game if you played it, and I hope this review was useful for you. Also, please don't forget to do all that good stuff down there, like, comment, subscribe, it really helps us out, and I will see you on the next one. Bye bye.